was only 17, a light in bloom, but he built a world into a haunted room.
My name is Ifunanya, but everyone calls me Iffy. I was born and raised in the heart of Port Harcourt, in a small, noisy compound in D-Line. The kind of place where the walls are thin, secrets are few, and gossip spreads faster than fire in Harmattan. Growing up there taught me to keep my head down, speak only when spoken to, and never air your dirty laundry. But life, as I would learn, doesn't care about your silence. It finds a way to tell your story, whether you're ready or not. I never imagined my life would take the turn it did. I never planned to become the kind of person people whispered about in corners. The girl whose name brought discomfort to family gatherings. The daughter whose own mother looked at her like a stranger, sometimes with pity, sometimes with shame. But that's what happened. And this is how it all began. It started with pain. My father died when I was 13. He was a kind man, a simple carpenter with big hands and a bigger heart. He used to sing old highlife songs while sanding wood, his voice echoing through our narrow corridor like balm on cracked skin. He had dreams, small, humble dreams. A new sewing machine for my mother. A school uniform that wasn't patched. A 2-room flat of our own someday. He believed in love, in family, in doing right by people. But belief doesn't pay hospital bills. Hope doesn't buy dialysis. He died of kidney failure because we couldn't afford the treatment he needed. I still remember the way his body looked on the hospital bed. Thin, grey, sunken. I remember his labored breathing, the beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic that clung to my clothes for days. And then, the silence. The stillness. The last sigh that broke everything in me. That was the moment my world began to unravel. That was the moment the girl everyone used to know began to disappear. After his death, my mother, my strong, beautiful mother, became a shadow of herself. She stopped plaiting her hair, stopped singing the gospel tunes that used to float through our small apartment like sunlight. The laughter that once echoed from her lips vanished completely, swallowed by grief. She started drinking. At first, it was 1 bottle of dry gin to calm her nerves, she said. Then it became 2. Then 4. It turned into a ritual, an escape, a poison, a prison. Our house grew eerily quiet, except for the sound of her sobbing in the dead of night or the clinking of glass bottles against the cold, tiled floor. She stopped looking at me. Not out of malice, but because, I think, I reminded her too much of him. My father, whose death had cracked her open in a way that never healed. By the time I turned 16, I had become invisible to her. Just a ghost in her home, tiptoeing through each day with my head bowed and my heart clenched. I learned how to move silently, how to make myself small, how to disappear. Then, one evening, she brought home a man she introduced as Uncle Tony. He smiled too much, laughed too loudly, and held my gaze for too long. He smelled like stale perfume and cigarettes, a scent that still makes me nauseous. She said he was a family friend. Said he was going to help us. Said he cared. That he would pay my school fees, buy food, take care of us. We were desperate by then, eating dry Gary for days, skipping meals. So I said nothing. I nodded. I played along. What choice did I have? That night, after my mother passed out in the living room, he came into my room. I was reading a tattered copy of a literature textbook under the dim glow of a torchlight when he pushed the door open. His voice was low, almost gentle. He told me to be quiet. Said it wouldn't hurt. But it did. It hurt like fire, burning, tearing, breaking me. And it didn't happen just once. It became a pattern. A nightmare that repeated itself whenever the house fell into silence. A horror that came with the night and left me hollow by morning. I didn't tell anyone. Who would have believed me? I was just a girl. a poor, fatherless girl with no voice. My mother was too lost in her own pain to notice mine. So I stayed silent. I buried it deep. I learned to disappear inside myself. My body became a battlefield, a place I no longer recognized or claimed as mine. My mind turned into a war zone, filled with landmines of fear, shame, and self-loathing. I carried that silence with me, to school, to church, to bed. It clung to me like a second skin. No one saw the bleeding beneath my smile. No one heard the screams I never let out. Everything changed when I met Favor. I was in SS2 when she transferred to our school, a storm wrapped in sunshine. Favor was nothing like the girls I knew. She wore her short, natural hair like a crown, her deep brown eyes sharp and curious, as if they could see through pretense. She laughed loudly, without shame, and spoke her mind even louder. She wasn't trying to fit in, she simply was, and people either accepted her or didn't. I didn't know how to act around someone like that. I had spent so long building thick, invisible walls around my heart, but she kept knocking on them like she didn't care what was hidden behind. One afternoon, I was crying in the girls' toilet. I had just been punished, again, for missing assignments. But how could I tell anyone that I couldn't focus? That my nights were haunted by hands I never invited, and my days passed in a fog? The pain was eating me alive. Favor walked in, took one look at me, and said nothing. Instead, she sat down beside me on the cold, stained floor. She didn't ask what was wrong. She didn't try to fix me. She simply reached into her bag and handed me a warm meat pie wrapped in brown paper. I took it without a word, my hands trembling. That moment was the beginning of something soft and strange. A flicker of light in a life that had known only darkness. It was the first time I felt seen. She became my friend. The only real friend I had. Favor never pried, never forced me to speak about things I wasn't ready to share, but somehow, she knew I was broken. There was a gentleness in the way she looked at me, like she could see the cracks but didn't flinch. We started walking home together after school. She lived just a few streets from me, and most afternoons, we'd stop by the mango tree behind my house. We'd sit there for hours, peeling mangoes with our teeth, laughing about silly things, talking about life. And for those few minutes every day, I felt normal. I felt safe. One day, when the weight became too heavy, I told her about Uncle Tony. I had never told anyone before. My voice trembled. My hands wouldn't stay still. I stared at the ground, afraid of what I'd see in her eyes. Disgust. Pity. But she didn't flinch. She took my hand in hers and said softly, "I'm so sorry, Iffy. That wasn't your fault. None of it." And for the first time, I believed it. Someone believed me. Our friendship deepened after that. It was different, intense, intimate, real. When she touched my hand, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Warmth, comfort, love. Not the kind of love I had seen in Nollywood movies or read about in church pamphlets. This love felt safe. It didn't demand or destroy. It healed. I didn't understand it at first. I was confused. Was I going mad? Was it wrong to feel this way about a girl? All my life, I had been told that women were meant to love men. Anything else was an abomination. Demonic. A sure ticket to hell. But how could something that felt so gentle, so healing, be evil? I didn't feel safe with men. I felt fear, shame, and pain. But with Favor, I felt seen. I felt alive. The first time we kissed, it was raining. We were under the mango tree, talking about our dreams. She told me she wanted to be an artist, said she wanted to paint the world in her own colors, to give beauty to the broken. I told her I wanted to run away and never come back. She looked at me with those soft, knowing eyes and asked, "Iffy, can I kiss you?" My heart pounded like a drum. I couldn't speak, but I didn't move away. When her lips touched mine, something inside me broke, and something else, something tender and wild, was born. I was scared. Not of her, but of the world. We kept our love a secret. To everyone else, we were just friends. But in the quiet of the night, we'd sneak out, hold hands beneath the moonlight, share our dreams and stolen kisses. For the first time in years, I believed I had a future. But secrets don't stay buried in Port Harcourt. One day, my mother came home early. She was sober, clear-eyed for once, her step steady for the first time in a long time. We didn't hear her come in. Favor and I were in my room, under the soft shade of the fading afternoon light, lost in a kiss that felt like safety. Then the door flung open. Her scream tore through the room, sharp and full of rage. She looked at me like I was something filthy, something rotten. She called me names I can't repeat, words meant to slice through flesh and bone. She said I was cursed, that I had brought shame into her house, that I was worse than a prostitute. She didn't ask questions. She didn't want explanations. All she saw was something she couldn't understand, and so, she rejected it. Rejected me. That night, she kicked me out. Just like that, I was homeless. A girl with nowhere to go and nothing to hold on to. I went straight to Favor's house, clutching a small nylon bag with a change of clothes and my school books. We lied to her mother, told her I wanted to stay for a while so we could focus on our upcoming exams. She believed us. Why wouldn't she? She was kind, warm, nothing like my mother. She even made us hot tea and told us to study hard and make her proud. That night, I cried into Favor's arms and whispered, "Am I really a lesbian?" Favor held me close and replied, "You're someone who deserves to love and be loved. That's what matters." We lived together in their house until after our exams. When the exams ended, I still had nowhere else to go, so I stayed on for a while. Favor's mother didn't question it. She welcomed me like family, unaware of the truth we were hiding. During that time, we took on small jobs to support ourselves. I sold second-hand clothes at Oil Mill Market, standing for hours in the sun, calling out to customers. Favor painted portraits and sold them online, pouring her soul onto canvas with every brushstroke. We survived. We laughed. We loved. But deep inside, something in me began to shift. It started slowly, like a whisper in the dark. I would lie awake at night beside Favor, feeling her warmth, hearing her breathe, and yet, something felt missing. Like a part of me was reaching for something else. I tried to ignore it. I thought maybe it was fear, or guilt, or the scars of my past. But it wasn't guilt. It was truth, trying to reach me. One Sunday morning, I was walking past a small church in Rumuola. I hadn't planned to stop. But as I passed, I heard singing, soft, broken voices rising like smoke into the sky. There was something raw and beautiful in the sound. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Something in the melody pulled me in. I slipped through the gate and sat quietly at the back, hoping not to be noticed. The pastor didn't shout. He didn't condemn or threaten hellfire like so many others I'd heard growing up. Instead, he spoke about the love of God, how he waits patiently for us, even when we run, how he sees us fully, even when we try to hide. He talked about grace, about healing, about the kind of love that doesn't have conditions. That message pierced through something hardened in me. It stirred a part of my soul I thought had died. I began attending quietly every Sunday. I didn't tell Favor at first. I was afraid of what it would mean, afraid she'd feel rejected. But something in me began to change. The more I listened, the more I began to see myself, not as damaged, not as dirty, not as a girl who had broken all the rules, but as a daughter. A daughter who had been wounded, confused, and searching for love in all the wrong places. One night, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I knelt beside my bed and poured everything out to God. The abuse, the pain, the shame, the love I felt for favor, the confusion I carried every day. I told him I didn't know who I was anymore. I braced myself for silence, for judgment, but instead, I felt peace. A deep, quiet peace that wrapped itself around me like a blanket. That was the moment I knew I had been looking for healing in the wrong place. It took me weeks to gather the courage to speak. But one evening, I sat favor down in our small shared room. My heart trembled as I spoke. I told her everything, about the church, about the stirring in my soul, about the voice calling me to something different. She cried. She felt hurt, betrayed, even. But I told her I still loved her, as a person. I would always be grateful to her. She had rescued me when no one else did. She gave me love when I was drowning. But now, I had to follow the voice calling me back to life. Leaving wasn't easy. It felt like cutting off a part of my own heart. For months, I battled temptation, confusion, and guilt. Some days I wanted to return, to crawl back into familiarity. But God was patient with me. He kept whispering truth. He kept breaking chains. I got counseling. I joined a support group. I forgave my mother. I forgave myself. Now, I am truly free. I don't call myself a lesbian anymore. I call myself redeemed, whole, loved. I'm 21 now. I study psychology at Uniport. I live alone in a modest room in Choba. Life is still hard. Some people stare. Some mock. Some try to correct me in both directions. But I no longer live to please people. I live to walk in the truth that set me free. I'm part of a women's ministry now. We help girls like me, abused, confused, ashamed. We tell them they are not their pain. That healing is possible. That they are seen. That they are loved. So how did I become a lesbian? It started with pain. With abuse. With silence. And how did I leave that life? It ended with love. With God. With truth. I didn't choose to be broken. But I chose to heal. I didn't choose my scars. But I choose what they remind me of. That I survived. That I was found. And now, I walk with my head high. Because I am no longer who I was. I am Ifunanya. And I am free.
I was lost in the shadows, afraid of who I'd be. Caught up in the lies that tried to capture me. But there's a light that shines. It calls me by my name, breaking every chain.
Like and subscribe.